welcome back to the Fantasy Hustle. Oh, excuse me. I'm your host, John G, with my co-host, Bradley D. What's up, Brad?
Great week of football. I know you're excited, as am I.
I am. I definitely am. And, before we get into this, I know you're ecstatic right now, not only because you beat the Pats and it was a crazy play, but you're still in the contention here now, man. You still got a shot. You still got a shot.
Yeah, Dolphins are tied now with the Ravens because they lost, and the Colts for that, sixth playoff spot. So anything can still happen. I mean, there's 3 weeks to play, and hey, you know what? It's all you ask for this late in the season.
Why not?
Is meaningful games.
Why not? I agree. But let's get into those games here. Dolphins 34, Pats 33 in a last-second thriller. Why don't you elaborate on that from the hike there, Brad?
Well, the game itself, other than obviously the last play everyone knows about, the game itself was very good. It was, back and forth. Right out of the gate, Gostowski misses the extra point on the first touchdown. So it's already, they're going back and forth, touchdown. But Miami always keeps regaining the lead by a point. And then, of course, they win the game by a point. Gostowski also missed a field goal in the second half. But it was a really good game. Brady had a good game, got Gronk finally going. Mm-hmm. Gore continues to be really good somehow, some way.
Gronk.
And, and then, of course, the final play. And I didn't understand it at first. I didn't know what the hell Gronk was even doing on the field for that play. Like Tannehill's arms that strong. Well,
right?
He's had this season, he's had an injury to his shoulder. So he can't throw it that far probably when he's healthy. I mean, you're 69 yards. I mean, that's a bomb. So he's probably not even healthy can he throw it that far. But he's had problems with his shoulder, like I said. And so you knew it had to be a lateral type play. Or a worst case scenario, I mean, the only other option would have been a quick out, gain maybe 10, 15 yards, then try the Hail Mary. But even then,
Belichick was just trying to be hip.
You know what? It's the best, too. But the one thing that made me mad about the whole thing was after the touchdown, not once did they show Brady or Belichick. They showed Gostowski, like anybody cares about kickers, because let's face it, they're really not people. But yeah, they kept showing him, but I just wanted to see the look on Brady's face. I wanted to see if he was sitting down, hunched over, crying like he did in the Super Bowl a few years ago, or if he was, even out there. I assume he just left, didn't shake any hands like he always does.
Or try to high five everyone, and no one's like,
no one wanted to give my
no,
high five.
Tom, no.
But it was absolutely great. I've watched it probably, 25 times over and over, 3 times already today.
I watched the NFL HBO program. I can't remember what it's called, but I liked it because last night I was watching it and I was smiling because they showed the perspective from Belichick as that play was happening. The camera's right behind him, and he's like trying to throw his hands up, but they can't. Like gravity's got him, and he's like, and he looks, and then they just cut it off before. Cause I'm sure he just fucking blows up.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Good for them, man. Good for them. Other upsets we had this week. You want to throw a little more sprinkles on that cake over there? Or you good? You think that was
The only other thing, I mean, unfortunately, we're going to get to it here in a second. The Texans also lost, got upset. Keeps the Patriots the number 2 seed in the AFC instead of Houston jumping them. So that's the one bad thing. It could have been Patriots having to play the first week of the playoffs instead of having that bye.
Hey, shit happens. But the Browns, led by Baker Mayfield, 26-20 over the Panthers. It's a big upset there in my eyes here. Colts, as you just spoke about, over the Texans, 24-21. It's hard to call that as an upset game, but I have to call the Sean the Texans have been playing. But, I just think that Andy Luck's back, man, and T.Y., huge game.
Houston's favored. They're at home there. Indy kind of stunk up the joint 2 weeks ago against Jacksonville, so it certainly felt like Houston was the better team, is the better team, and just Indy showed up.
Niners 20, Broncos 14. Definitely a game that I don't think a lot of people thought was going to happen there. What a good play by Kittle, though, man. Had a hell of a game. Raiders 24, Steelers 21. Man, Steelers are just crumbling apart. It's getting to the point where you really probably should be worried if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan here. And not only about this year, I'd say about the future. You know what I mean? Because I like Juju Smith, but there's just so much garbage going on there. Connor, I know hopefully he comes back this week. Maybe.
Yeah.
Probably not, but, there's something going on there, and they got to definitely get in there and fix that. I don't know if it's in-house or what, but.
Yeah, Steelers are now in a dogfight for their division, which a couple weeks ago they were very comfortable. 7-2-1. Now all of a sudden they're 7-5-1 and just a half game ahead of Baltimore with 3 to play. So unfortunately they don't go head to head anymore this year. And Pittsburgh, they have a tough game this week against New England, and I believe next week they have another tough one. So it'll be interesting. I think they play New Orleans in 2 weeks, week 16. So it'll be interesting to see if the Ravens can step forward and take that division over.
Jets 27 over the Bills 23. Yeah, they both suck. Not really too in depth with it. Yeah.
4-9, 4-9. Congratulations.
Yep. Giants 40 over the Skins 16. I know it's really not an upset, but without ODB, I didn't think the game was going to be that much of an outreach for Washington.
Redskins are in an absolute free fall.
Yeah.
6-3 just 4 weeks ago, and now all of a sudden they'll be lucky to win another game.
Old butt fumble. But getting into the Thursday night game, Derrick Henry single-handedly stiff-armed the entire Titans team, 30-9. Titans team, Jaguars team. You know where I'm going with that one. Bad joke. But, I got to say, when you're running for 238 and 4 TDs and humiliating the entire backfield and linebackers on the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's absurd. The best is the first guy he stiff-armed was just slowly running behind the whole time. Everyone was getting stiff-armed. Like he was going to catch him. He's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, that 99-yarder was, it was insane. It was what you love about Derrick Henry, everyone that's drafted him. He's got that power, and he's not the quickest guy in the world, but he's hard to bring down. And if you don't go after his legs, you're probably not going to do it one-on-one. And, after that second touchdown, the Jaguars just gave up, and that's why he was able to get third and fourth touchdown and go for over 200 yards. But the crazy thing is Derrick Henry in my big league, he was running back 36 going into Thursday night. He jumped to running back 17. So he's now the 17th best running back. All of a sudden,
remember I was talking about him a couple weeks ago?
Yeah. And
Brendan, you out there? See you next week, bitch.
At the time, it looked like he was going to be a huge bust. And obviously, one game is great, but if you played him every single week up until this week, you probably didn't make the playoffs if he was your running back 1 or 2.
Or Le'Veon Bell.
I guess. But the other thing, like what I'm saying here is he hasn't gone over 60 yards in over a year. And this was the first time, obviously, he went way over this week, but he just hasn't been doing it. And honestly, now I don't think Deion Lewis is going to get as many touches. There's no reason.
No, I agree. And, the big thing is the guy's been hungry and he's been pissed off, and all that bottled up aggression finally exploded there. Fortunately, the Jags, who've got a stellar defense, just got their shit handed to them.
Yep.
And I like Derrick Henry. I think he's going to have a good career in the NFL. Maybe this system isn't perfect for him, but, with his size, like you said, man, he's a hard guy to bring down.
Yeah, I think he'll have a long career as, short yardage guy. He'll catch on somewhere just doing that if he can't be the every down back that Tennessee was hoping he could be. But he'll have a good probably 10-year career where he gets you 7-8 touchdowns a year and just little 2-yard runs all the time.
Second to Tony Dorsett. Patrick Mahomes maintains his respectful MVP campaign against a tough D in Baltimore. Tough game there. 27-24 in overtime. Lamar showing he belongs, man.
Another awesome game.
Yeah. I like what I'm seeing for the kid, and I think the best part about it is I like seeing Joe Flacco in the back seat.
Yeah. Flacco, we knew his career was winding down, and we knew he was probably going to be one of the worst quarterbacks in the league this year, but now it's kind of like he's back, he's healthy, but he's still going to be behind Jackson because they've only lost the one game, and that was obviously to the Chiefs in overtime, which, if Patrick Mahomes wasn't incredible, the Ravens would have won that game. That no-look pass that Mahomes had, I'd never seen anything like it. To be able to look straight ahead and then throw the ball a good 15 yards to the left of where you're looking and put it right on the receiver. Dude's incredible.
Yeah, definitely a stud, man. I think he's run away with it here, and I think he deserves it, honestly. So, good to see. Interested to watch him play for the future. It's a bummer we didn't get him, but I like Mitch. Moving on, Tampa Bay blows an early lead to fall to Drew Brees and the Saints. New Orleans, I feel like it's slowing down quite a bit, and they really are going to need that first-round bye just to kind of catch up here. I'm not trying to blame it on Drew, but I think it's a team thing here. They got some older vets on that offensive line, and sometimes that kind of can really lead to not being able to open up the run game, even, passing-wise. And Drew's got to be able to make some of them passes, too. He hasn't been as clutch as he's been in past years, so they're going to have to figure something out here.
Yeah, Drew's always, this year he doesn't throw it downfield very much. He likes to hit Kamara on short plays. That's why his completion percentage is so high this year. I mean, he doesn't take a lot of those chances. He doesn't have to because he's got good guys that can make the plays and they can work their way down the field or get good yak. So, obviously, we've been talking about him as the only guy contending for the MVP. I think this week kind of just threw that out the window.
Yeah,
Mahomes definitely has it now. But you know what? Breeze is, I don't think he cares so much about that. He just wants another Super Bowl ring, and they still have a good shot at it because right now,
they're a tough team.
Go through
they're
Saints.
A tough team in the NFC.
Yeah,
and
got to go through the Superdome.
Yeah, exactly. Aaron Rodgers, on the other hand, wins despite just having a terrible team and terrible coaching from Joe Philbin. It's funny when you lose your first two challenges in the first 2 minutes of the game.
It's like he thought the catch rule.
Lovie Smith was bad.
It's like Philbin thought the catch rule was the catch rule from the last few years. Like they've changed the catch rule now where catches that you like, oh, that's not a catch, are clearly a catch. So he's just like, oh, that's not a catch because this. And yeah, you're right. First drive of the game, challenge, out of challenges, and luckily they didn't need him. I mean, for his sake.
Way to go, Green Bay fans.
But you know what? They got the win, and they're still mathematically alive.
You know what I love is the smack talk that Rodgers was talking. He's like, yeah, theoretically, if we just went out here, it starts by going back to Chicago and beating them, which we've done a lot. Yeah.
He's not wrong.
Doesn't matter about being wrong.
15-2 in their last 17.
He's going to be a dead man on that field. I'm telling you, they're going to eat him alive, which I'm excited for. And Aaron Rodgers, you deserve, because the Green Bay Packers are right near the bottom of the barrel in the NFC North, and it'll be the first time in your career, buddy. See you later.
They're currently tied with the Browns, 5-7-1.
That's difficult. That's difficult. Chargers held off Cincinnati 26-21 to maintain their hopes for a possible playoff bye. Home field advantage for a couple games, and big game against KC on Thursday. Although Eckler, Gordon possibly going to be out, Tyreek Hill saying he's going to play, but you would really like to see those two running backs play in that game to really be able to kind of measure where they're at. But I think it's going to be interesting nonetheless.
Obviously, this is going to be a big game for Rivers. He's going to have to really step up. Like you said, Gordon might not play. Eckler's definitely not playing. Justin Jackson's not Melvin Gordon, that's for sure. So it's going to be on Phillip Rivers' shoulders to win this game. And the Chiefs haven't lost the game yet in Kansas City, so it'll be a challenge for sure. And last we got the Lions.
Well, the Lions.
What the hell you were doing?
Chugging some beer over here. No, Lions head across the country, as you said. It's the one time your theory's been declined. But Lions
it's not technically across the country.
Well,
I guess they are Eastern time zone.
Let's go with that. But a disappointing season from David Johnson didn't help, and held the Cardinals 17-3. Patricia, just trying to beat Aaron Rodgers, I think is the bottom line. You do that, hey, I came in here, I had a better record than Rodgers. What are you going to say? But, on to bigger and better things here. Cowboys, team that's just emerging here over the past couple of weeks, maintained their rhythm by possibly spoiling the Eagles. What are they called?
Eagles?
That's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Well, they're going to ruin their playoff chances here. And it's funny how the Amari Cooper trade is really starting to pan off. I know they gave up a first rounder, which I don't think is, equivalates, but the way he's producing, it's like, how could you bitch about it?
Yeah, right now he's producing as a wide receiver number one. He's been one of the best since moving to Dallas. And, his whole time there in Oakland, he was always, I wouldn't say second fiddle, but there was always Crabtree who was getting all those targets. And now he's getting the lion's share of the targets. He's being heavily involved, and he's blowing up. And this Cowboys team just needed a little bump there outside of Zeke on the offensive side because this defense, is very good. And if you look at the NFC right now, you got those two teams at 3 and 4 in the Bears and the Cowboys with really good defenses that could win playoff games. And then obviously they'll have to go on the road to New Orleans and LA against those high-powered offenses. So the NFC playoffs are going to be really good if it stays the way it is right now. I'm assuming the Vikings aren't going to win that division. It doesn't look like it, and it looks like the Cowboys have that one wrapped up as well. So let's hope that stays that way because that's going to be fun week 2 or second round action. And speaking of the Bears.
Speaking of them, Sunday Night Football. Pretty exciting. Some call it an upset, but I call it just two good teams playing against one another.
Yeah. There's a big flex for the Bears because whenever these home teams have those primetime games, the crowd's always more into it. Oh, yeah. Obviously, it was going to be a little colder, too, because the sun had gone down. So it was a boost for the Bears. I don't think the Bears would have lost at noon either. I think that defense and the way Goff and the Rams just didn't want any part of it. They were just like, you know what? Forget this.
Yeah.
Let's just get out of here, go home, and take care of the
Do they lose in L.A.?
So far, no. So,
okay.
I don't know. It's tough. And they don't have another cold game left. They have 2 more home games, a game in Arizona, and then if the seeding stay as they are, they'll go to either the Saints or host all the playoff games.
No doubt. Yeah, that stadium was a rocking, man.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, it was probably the loudest game I've been to, and seeing them walk away with that is just fantastic. Game of the year that I wanted to see, was able to walk on the field, humble brag. But, hey, man, Bears got it. Let's bring on the playoffs, baby. Monday night game, Russie Wilson leads the Seahawks. We're now 8-5 over the Vikings. Man, I got to say, Vikings they've just been struggling since the get-go. You know what I mean? I know the Cook injury kind of happened, and it kind of derailed them a little bit, but even the defensive side of things with Everson Griffin, there's just been so much shit going on in that team and in the locker room, for one, that they couldn't get out of. And I know that, the O-line coach passed away, rest in peace, but, there's so much going on there. And they might not make the playoffs, man, is the bottom line. And I think they might not.
Yeah, they, obviously they have a little bit easier of a schedule than I think the Panthers, who are right there with them, and you don't think the Eagles or the Redskins are going to do it either. So basically, they could go 1-2, finish the year 7-8-1, and make the playoffs because the NFC is kind of going the wrong direction. They were so good early on, and like the top teams have still been there, but everyone else is just kind of taking a crap. And
top teams being the Chicago Bears.
The Bears, Rams, Saints, and now the Cowboys. But yeah, everyone else is just kind of like nobody else wants it other than the Seahawks. But outside of those 5 teams, like nobody really is showing that they're a playoff caliber team.
Yeah, a lot of pretenders for sure here. But I like Russie, man. Got to give him credit here. It's not like he's got a whole ton of weapons there, and his defense has been very strong, man. Yeah. Very strong here. But now that wraps up my week, just to touch on the top QBs that we had this week. Dakota Rain, 455, 3 TDs, 2 interceptions. Tom Brady coming in there, 358, 3 TDs. Andy Luck, 399, 2 TDs and interception. I don't want to. Gotta give Tannehill credit. He was up there too. He had a solid game, and partially the circus play, but
265 yards. He was under 200 before that last play, so it's kind of hard to give him major props, but did enough, I guess, to get the win.
Hey,
And then we can't
Sportsmanship.
we can't have a top segment without talking about Patrick Mahomes, 377, 2 touchdowns. And
I didn't want to,
I figure you always got to talk about him. Like I said, that no look pass, and then on the 4th and 9, he scrambles out and hits Tyreek on 1 foot, and he's just so damn good.
Do you got a picture of him on your ceiling at your house?
I'm gonna get one. I gotta get one.
You hear that, Jenny? Get him one. Don't
put it down in the man cave. I want a big one, not an 8x11. I want like
the cardboard cutouts from like Century Mall back
in
the day.
Huge full poster. I'll take a cardboard cutout. Yeah.
Oh boy, we better change the subject here. On to the running backs, Derrick Henry, who I believe is the player of the week for sure here. 238, 4 TDs, and mentioning again, fucking 99-yard touchdown run. Ridiculous, man. Ridiculous. Heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, that guy was on the bench from the guy I was playing." You're fucking lucky. You're lucky. Saquon Barkley, 170 and a TD, and Zeke, top 2 cadets typically. 12, or we had 113 and then 12 for 79 yards receiving. Good in the PPR league, and notables McCaffrey. He had a solid game here. Yeah,
and Mixon was pretty good too. 111 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Another 27 yards receiving. So
good to see he's holding up with backup
he's
quarterback
doing pretty
in there.
well,
No AJ Green, and
you mentioned Zeke there. He didn't have a touchdown because all those went to another Cowboy. There wasn't any to share.
Which one? Our number 1, Amari Cooper. 10 for 217 and 3 TDs.
Whew.
That was a nice alley-oop, baby. Shake and bake.
He won. One guy in my league had just crap, and it was Cooper. Got him over 40% of his total points for the week, and that was good enough to win it because the other guy just, didn't show up. All his players pretty much struggled, and Cooper threw up that. I think it was like 41 points in our league. So that'll do it,
man. That will do it. T.Y. Hilton, 9 for 199. Figured that boy was going to get up and do some things again. And he's definitely got the Texans safety and cornerbacks numbers. Juju Smith, who in my opinion is the future of Pittsburgh. And I think they got to maybe look into options here as far as what they can get for Antonio. Eventually when his price keeps going up. Well, you got a guy who's filling in perfectly here.
Yeah, so. I don't know if you need to even, why not just keep both? And
well, you can, but you just got to start looking at your numbers here once Juju starts getting paid, and Connor's going to be the new guy. He's going to get a little bit more money here. I know they got their rookie contract.
2-year window here, Juju not getting paid, and maybe by the end of that 2 years, Brown will be, much older. Obviously, he'll be at that.
I could see a possibility because with Big Ben going out of there and getting in a rookie QB, you got some small, but
but Juju
let's see what happens.
Juju will be a nice weapon for whatever rookie eventually, or whatever young quarterback, be it the guys that are have on the roster or someone they pick up later on.
There'll be a point when Brown will get a little bit stingy and want to go play with some winners here.
Could be.
I don't know. Notable note: Julio, 106, 2 TDs, coming around at the wrong time. Julio, sorry.
And again, he's not a receiver, but. God damn.
Kittle,
7 catches, 210 yards, including a huge 85-yard touchdown. And, for a tight end to get you 200 yards first off and then throw in a touchdown, that's huge. He was on a lot of winning teams this past week in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely the best player on that team and is getting the most points here, especially with even with Brady on the field. He's been dominating.
But with Breida out, definitely.
Just dynamite. So that's who I got here, Brad. Who's our fallers and who's fucking on the IR now?
Well, our fallers, we're going to go straight to the 2 primetime games, Sunday night and Monday night. Defensive games, a lot of guys really struggled there. Goff, obviously, is the big one, 180 yards. That's not very good.
Welcome to Chicago, bitch.
No touchdowns. 4 turnovers, and I know I've seen anywhere from, depending on scoring, him getting -3 to +4. So,
see you later, buddy.
The other guy on the other side of the ball, Mitch Trubisky, only had 110 yards and threw a touchdown to some big offensive lineman nobody had on their team. He also had 3 turnovers, three bad turnovers as well. So maybe it's rust, maybe the injuries a little worse than people think.
Sorry, Mitchie. Get it together.
Okay, moving on. The other guys in those games, well, actually, I already said Monday night. Russie only had 72 yards, no touchdowns. He threw a costly interception at the end of the first half, but it didn't really affect them there. He got running, though, 61 yards. And then Cousins, the other guy, he had 208 yards and a touchdown, but that was all pretty much garbage time. He was doing nothing until the end of that game. And then on the running side of the ball, obviously, Gurley really held in check. 11 carries, 28 yards, only 30 yards receiving. Not a whole lot going there for him. And the receiver there in L.A., Cooks, 3 catches, 22 yards. Not good enough for guys that needed a big week. The only other quarterback I got here, Stafford. He had 101 yards and nothing else. And then real quick, Adrian Peterson for the running backs, 10 carries, 16 yards. James White, who I thought would have a huge game, 4 carries, 13 yards, and only 2 receptions for 15. Leonard Fournette, at this point, I don't know what you do with that guy because he's just...
Adios.
If he's not healthy, he hasn't been good, except for, I think, that 1 week where he had like 30 touches. So he had 14 carries for 36 yards. And then the other guy in New England, Sony Michel, we were both pretty high on last week, 20 carries for 57 yards.
Yikes.
Guy we talked about a little bit ago, the Juju's partner, Antonio Brown, disappointing week, 5 for 35. Not going to cut it in the playoffs. And then lastly, Sutton, Cortland Sutton, taking over as the number 1 guy without Sanders. 2 catches for 14 yards. That's our fallers. Now, real quickly, into the injuries. You mentioned Eckler and Tyreek Hill. Tyreek looks like he's going to play. Eckler's going to be out. And then Melvin Gordon is questionable, so we'll find out at game time, I guess. And then Spencer Ware is out, along with Sammy Watkins, who will be out again. So 2 weapons for Kansas City won't be there. Jordan Reed, he injured his foot and looks like he's done for the year. As well as, I don't know if anybody needs this guy or has him, but Jonnu Smith, tight end for the Titans.
Jonnu who?
He's also on IR. So another 2 tight ends out for the year. And then Crowell actually, all the Jets running backs have not practiced yet this week. But Crowell's the big one there. He's got a toe injury. He's week to week. He'll probably miss. And then Corey Clement, he's got a knee injury. He's out at least 1 week, probably out for the season. And then the big one's Carson Wentz. He's got a back injury. Doesn't look like he's going to play this week. And if they lose...
Out for a year.
He might be done for the year. So,
I got a feeling he's going to be gone. Got to go, man. Rest him up. No need to risk it for a shot. You're not going to win this year.
They're 6
you got to throw
7.
on the towel and carry on, man.
They have an outside shot at the 6th seed, but they're not going to win the division. I don't know if it's even worth risking him, like you said. And now they have to go to L.A. and play the Rams, who are just itching after that Sunday night game this past week. And that is week 14.
Bye, bitches. Now we're going to get into, you know what? Before we get into that, why don't you let them know how they can send us some hate mail, Brad?
All right, go on Twitter.
Now that we got the right email address.
We got the right email. Our voicemail's up and running. It's good to go. So go on our Twitter. That's at fantasy_hustle. You're going to go on there. You'll see our email. It's thefantasyhustle@gmail.com. And you'll also see our voicemail where you can call us and just call and say how much you love listening to our show.
Hello.
It's 219-576-6797. I only got one question to ask.
What's that, sir?
Who you got?
Who you got? Who you got? Who you got?
Oh, you know who I got. Who you got?
What's in the box?
What is in the box, Brad? What is in the box? So, who you got here, Brad? Now that we're getting into this segment, you realize that a handful of people could be out of the playoffs, out of the league if they didn't make it, and kind of slim pickings. So,
absolutely,
there's going to be a point where I start firing my team off of you and saying, "Hey, what do you think?
Well,
I'm in these semis here. What should I do?"
I gave you the same conundrum in one of my questions, so it's all right. We all need help from time to time.
Hey, so who you got? I got Cam Newton with his shoulder injury, kind of working things out. coming in with New Orleans, or Matty Ice versus Arizona.
I tell you what, the both of these teams, Saints and the Cardinals defenses, have been pretty good lately, last 4 weeks or so here against opposing quarterbacks. And you may think the Saints, that doesn't make sense because they're season long one of the worst defenses, but they have been strong here lately. Maybe they're getting, obviously they got Eli Apple in the middle of the season. Maybe all those pieces are finally starting to gel and they're getting something there. And then the Cardinals have been strong all year, but really good the last couple of weeks. Obviously, I mentioned Stafford, only 101 yards. So what I think here is ultimately I like Newton because I think that's going to be a very high-scoring game. I think the Saints are going to score a lot. The Panthers need to score a lot to keep up with them. And Panthers are in desperation mode right now. They've lost 5 straight. They're right now on the outside looking in, but they're only a half game back.
Outside looking in.
And, the Falcons and Cardinals are both basically, they're eliminated from the playoff contention, and really they don't have a whole lot to play for. And I do think Atlanta at home will have a better game than they had in the last couple weeks, but if the Cardinals are too good, it might be a situation where that's kind of a mucked up game, not a lot of scoring. So I'm going to take Newton there because I think there's going to be a lot of points to be had, and Newton will get the ball going to McCaffrey or Moore or whoever else there and put up a respectable number, or maybe he just run it himself.
Okay.
All right, my quarterback question for you here is the $84 million man, Kirk Cousins, at home against the Dolphins, or Andy Luck at home against the Dallas Cowboys.
I like this question because I'm going to cheap shot you here and just say, the whole Kirk Cousins and Mitch Trubisky debate we had a couple of weeks ago, which, given Mitch sat out, it hasn't been playing really good. He's been overthrowing some people, not to steer too far away, but Kirk Cousins is a fucking $84 million guaranteed man.
Yes.
And he's playing like shit.
Yes.
With a good team.
But we forgot
no
to
buts.
mention,
No buts.
They just fired their offensive coordinator, John DeFilippo.
Shh. That ain't happening. I got to throw him aside. He's not going to have any type of game here. And I got to tip my cap to the Dolphins because there's got to be some energy on their side of things here, man. You got to be excited as a Dolphin fan of what Miami is feeling right now. Sometimes, no matter how far you go in the playoffs, it's about beating that top dog.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Just one game can make their season here. And I think that's what the Dolphins are going for here. And Cousins could be that, he's the bait for him. Now, when I look at Andrew Luck, man, that guy looks good. He's coming back to what we thought he was going to be here. And I think they really got to get together on the offense side of the ball. The running backs got to pick it up a little bit more. And, he's one of the quarterbacks that you just got to let take control of the game. Their coach has got to let that happen here. And I think he'll prove that, beating a tough Texans defense and coming back, that's going to give you a little bit of a lot of positive energy for you to come in here saying, hey, these guys can't stop me. I know Dallas is the highly touted top 3 ranked defense probably right now in the NFC. I got a lot to prove, and I got to get in the playoffs myself. So this is going to be a really exciting game, man. You got to go with Andy.
All right, I respect that.
I wrote his name on my shoe, bro.
You gonna play? You got a friend in me?
You gotta pick between these running backs.
All right, we got
Duke Johnson.
Nope.
That's you. Sorry. Mark Ingram at Carolina, or Chris Carson at San Francisco.
So obviously Ingram is in that game. I expect to be very high scoring against the Saints or against the Panthers on Monday night, and I do expect Ingram to get a good opportunity. Maybe have some good touches. Maybe do some things here. But I think Chris Carson could be in line for a huge game. Seattle basically runs the ball at will against whoever they're playing. They just ran really well against the good Vikings front seven. So
yeah,
I think they're going to continue to do that. Obviously I said, Rusty Wilson only had 72 yards passing. So they're a run-first team, and right now you just stick with it, and especially against the Niners, who are just brutal on the defensive side of the ball. So I get Carson going there. Penny's banged up, so that's a guy that's been taking some carries here and there from him. Maybe he doesn't play at all, or maybe if he does, he is active, he's not getting as much touches as usual. So Carson's my guy here, although I do think Ingram, because that's going to be such a high-scoring game, he could luck into a touchdown and maybe 60, 70 yards. But give me Carson.
Okay, I like it.
All right, so as you mentioned there, Duke Johnson's my running back for you. He's at the Broncos, and that's a Saturday game. So make sure you realize you got Saturday night games this week.
Yes.
Or you have Kenneth Dixon going against the Bucks. And if you don't like either, you can always free agent it.
You can. Nah, man. Why wouldn't you go Dixon against the Bucks? I think that's a good play here. Something that there's really a whole lot to lose there with his team, and Tampa Bay, their running game or their run defense is awful. They've been awful this year, and I just don't see any way that he does not have a solid game. He'll at least get you on the board here. Free agency, there's not a lot left out there. So between them, as shitty options as they are, I mean, yeah, if it's PPR, Duke may be an option with his, catches here and there, but you got to go with Dixon.
Yeah, what I like about Dixon is the Ravens are going to run the ball more than any team, just like I was just talking about the Seahawks. The Ravens run it even more. So there's plenty of opportunity to go around between the Gus Bus, Lamar Jackson, and now Kenneth Dixon. So I think, yeah, absolutely, Kenneth Dixon here should have an opportunity for at least 7 or 8 carries, and against Tampa, like you said, that could be good enough, but he could easily get in double digits as well.
Let's see. All righty. I got you, Mr. Jarvis Landry, who you said was going to have a big game. I must let you know. He had a pretty solid game last week.
Yeah, finally got one right.
Jarvis Landry or Mr. Kittle, Mr. Skittle, going into Seattle.
All right, so obviously a flex question here. Landry, he's been really, really up and down, and I don't think you can rely on that at this point in the season. In this playoff time, you're in the semifinals here in most leagues, and you can't have a guy out there that disappears as frequently as he has been. And especially with Baker, who's coming on here, has been very strong lately. I think the problem with Baker is he wants to throw it deep first. He likes to go long. He likes to hit that big play, and that's not Landry's strength. He's an underneath guy who gets a lot of receptions, a lot of targets, and ultimately I think that's why you've seen such a drop-off for Landry the last few weeks, other than last week, obviously. But they got him going in the run game, which was interesting. I didn't see that coming. But at this point, I don't think you can sit Kittle.
Yeah.
He just, like we said, 210 yards and a touchdown.
He's been beyond average.
Yeah, and he's a really good play because
for wide receivers in general.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. He could be a tight end or a receiver, but you luck out because he can be your tight end. It's interesting what his actual tight end is for this league. Better than Kittle is a very good spot to be in. So I think it would honestly has to be either Ertz or Kelsey. So if you got both of those guys, that's a nice, solid roster. So I'll take Kittle here. I will take Kittle here because I do think he is their best option. Breeda's banged up, so he might not get a ton of love there, and he's obviously their next best weapon. So I'll go with Kittle because he's the best option, and he should get plenty of action. And Landry just scares me too much. You don't want to rely on a guy that's so up and down at this point in the season.
Definitely.
All right, my last one here. I'm gonna throw Landry right back at you. He's a guy here that you could go with at the Broncos.
Dirty bitch.
Or you can take Diggs against Miami, who you already kind of poo-pooed Cousins. Or you have Edelman at the Steelers. I just need one of those 3.
I think the sure shot is Edelman. I mean, yeah, I'm going to throw that shade at Cousins. He could have a good game, but he can't even get his best receiver dealing in, you know what I mean, the motion and trying to get him going. Dalvin Cook can't get started. That offense is really struggling here. And, good defenses eventually do tire out here. And I think that's what's wearing this team down here. And I got to tip my cap to the Dolphins. They're playing some, they remind me of the Bears back in the day who would do some wild shit to win a game. You're like, really? I'll take it, But you guys have got playoff chances. You guys, like you're playing. But you know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah.
Miami's got it going. So they're going to be playing tough on Minnesota, man. This is going to be a huge game for them this year. Landry, I agree with you. Who knows what you're going to get from the guy?
It's not worth the risk.
You hope that him and Baker eventually get something going here for the future because he's a good ball player and, getting paid a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
But Edelman and Brady, man, that's one of the best combinations you can have right now in the NFL. And no matter with Gronk, you just see how pitiful Gronk is at this point, and he always checks Edelman first. So you got to roll with him, man.
Yep.
And the Steelers are on the downfall right now.
I think Edelman is the safest of the three, and I think, honestly, he doesn't have the highest ceiling because Diggs could blow up, especially Xavier Howard is out for the Dolphins. But, Edelman's a guy that gets you, 8 to 15 points pretty much on a weekly basis. So roll with him.
Good for them people who stashed him, serving that PED suspension.
Yes, sir.
So, now that we got going through there, let's run through the top three. Why don't you spin me your top three quarterbacks you got?
I'm going to start with Russie. Obviously, we talked about it. 72 yards is not a good performance from a quarterback. They got the W, and it was against a team in Minnesota who still is respectable defensively, and they ran the hell out of the ball. This week, though, against the Niners, I think they're going to run the ball. I think Russie's going to continue to run the ball. He's kind of got that going the last few weeks here. But I think he's going to throw for a really good game as well. I think they'll want to go after Richard Sherman, who they're going up against this week, and I think they'll want to prove that they were right for releasing him. And Russie's a guy that's right there as far as MVP, if not for what Mahomes is doing this year. He's got a bad team at 8-5, and they're rolling. He's my number one. I like Lamar Jackson as my number two guy. I think, again, they're going to run the ball a lot against Tampa, and he'll be one of those guys that runs it a lot, but he showed a little something throwing the ball last week, and I think against Tampa, he'll be able to continue that. And then lastly, kind of my sleeper here, Josh Allen for Buffalo, going up against Detroit, who just played in Arizona. Now they got to go to Buffalo. I don't know how up for that game they are. And whenever you got a rookie quarterback, they're always going to get up. They're always got something to prove, something to, they want to show they were worth that high pick like he was. So he's my number three there, my my sleeper option.
I like that. I think you got to look out for also Baker Mayfield. Going into Denver, he's a guy who's, kind of let loose. He doesn't got that strict coach on him, and he knows that eventually he's going to have a coach next year who's going to be telling him what the fuck he's going to be doing. But for now, you got to enjoy this. You got to get loose. You got to understand the game a little bit more, and you can make the mistakes. And hey, these are those big games for him here. Going into our running backs here, I got Joe Mixon going up against Oakland. I think that's just a good matchup for him. Oakland's defense is just terrible. Man, that's just a mess right there. And, I tipped my cap to him for upsetting Pittsburgh last week. But bottom line is that's a 1 every 4 gamer right there. I really don't think Oakland's going to stand tall, and Joe's going to get the ball. I like Phillip Lindsay versus Cleveland. Yeah, they got a decent secondary, but Phillip Lindsay, man, he is still, you can throw out your Rookie of the Year candidacies, but this guy's got to be on that ballot, man, because he's shown as an undrafted free agent that he can handle. Fuck, man, the guy's good. Guy's good. And I got to go with Tariq, man. Not to be a homer, but, I feel that the Bears are there to prove a point, to beat Green Bay at home, and I think they're going to beat the crap out of them. And I think he's going to be the guy that no one from that linebacking crew is going to be able to keep up with, and that's going to open the door for probably more reception yards and all that jazz. But we'll see what happens here. Who you got on the wide receiver side of things here, Brad?
Can I get my running backs?
Okay, go ahead.
I agree with you on Mixon. He's definitely in for a big game. Oakland last week was kind of a fluke, but I like Dalvin Cook here. Lately, the Dolphins were really bad against running backs and really good against the passing game. That's kind of flipped the script a little bit. They've been better lately against running backs and very strong against. Very poor against passing attack. But I think Dalvin Cook, now that DeFilippo's out, Mike Zimmer wants to get him going, and he'll get a ton of carries, and I think eventually they'll wear down Miami's run defense, and he's my top guy there. And then I like as a little sleeper here, Jalen Richard for Oakland. I think Oakland's going to be down early in this game, and that's why I really love Mixon as well. But I think he's the passing back that you want to get the ball to, and I think they're going to throw it a ton. And you're going to want to get the ball to him and let him do his thing. So that's my sleeper for the running backs.
Oh. Well, wide receivers, I got to go with Robert Woods here.
Absolutely.
I like him versus Philly. I think, the biggest part of Cooper Kupp's injury is, Cooks is having just a good year. When he gets the ball, he's electric. But you see Goff relying on Woods to get open the most. He trusts him. And being a veteran receiver, I think that he's due for a huge game here. I mean, between the targets and him just kind of doing what he did, he had a bad matchup last week, but this is kind of his comeback for sure.
Had a bad matchup, but respectable game. I mean, He had almost half of Goff's yardage just to Robert Woods alone, so that's why I'm completely on board with you there.
Julian Edelman. I know, the question was in the air earlier, but the guy is just good, man. He's, just to reiterate, one of Brady's favorite targets, and Pittsburgh is not playing too well, and their secondary is not the best right now. Well, they haven't been this whole year, but I'd like to see Tom just go in there and pick them apart. And DJ Moore didn't have a big week last week, but I think the whole team in general kind of shit the bed. I'd like to see them bounce back here, knowing that they are kind of in contention and they really need to pick things up here. And I'd like for DJ Moore to be that guy because he's shown that he can handle it, and he's gotten about 8 targets over the past 6 games, so that's pretty big in a fantasy value. Yeah,
I'm in complete agreement with Woods and DJ Moore. I like both of them this week. So throw another guy out there. I think this is it for Larry Fitzgerald. This is a good week for him, good matchup. I think they're going to go into that dome in Atlanta and have pretty good success throwing the ball, and it's going to be Fitzgerald as the primary recipient of that. And he could be in line for maybe his best game of the year. Something like that. It's kind of possibly a swan song for him coming up here on the end of the season, end of his career possibly. And then my sleeper here, Doug Baldwin was out last week, and I don't know how healthy he is, so David Moore is my other guy there that I really like. Obviously, Lockett's the guy now, but David Moore is the guy, the number 3 guy when Baldwin's in, but he's shown a lot of good things this year. I really like the young man, David Moore.
The young man, David Moore. Well, why don't we kick into our picks this week, Brad?
I don't know what that was.
Yeah, I don't know either. What the fuck you doing, bro? We got Chargers against... I think this is one of the most anticipated Thursday night matchups this year for me.
Yeah.
But Chargers and the Chiefs. Going to be a tough matchup. Who do you got?
Well, this is, it's essentially the battle for the division. The Chargers are a game back. Even if they win this game, the Chiefs would still own the tiebreaker right now. So I think the Chiefs here are perfect at home. They just beat a very tough Ravens team. Both teams are a little banged up right now, so that's cause for concern for, picking either way. Mm-hmm. And I think ultimately I'm going to go with the guy I think is MVP of the league and Patrick Mahomes to find a way to win this game. And it might be something like we saw when the Chiefs and the Rams played, but this time the Chiefs are at home and they're going to get the last opportunity and win it.
Well, I like the Chiefs and I respect the shit out of Mahomes, but I got to go against you because I got to pick up some points here. And it's the perfect game to...
It is.
I know that the Chargers are missing some weapons here, and I think this is going to be a big test for Philly just to say, hey, man, I can throw the ball around. I got weapons. I got Mike Williams. I got Keenan Allen. Even Gates is rolling around here limping down the field with turf toe. But I like what they got rolling here. I think that's my pick. Solid game. Chargers by 10.
Oh, wow.
Texans are easily going to stroll in and beat the Jets.
I
don't think
agree.
any cause for concern here, but seems like a pretty easy game here.
Yeah, Houston can't afford to lose another one if they want that first round bye, so they'll go into the Jets there and stomp them.
I'm going to go with the Broncos over the Browns here. I think that neither team is looking really well, but I think Philip Lindsay's going to lead them over. I like Nick Chubb. I like what Baker Mayfield's got going on here, and I think they're on the uprise for sure. And I think I did call Browns winning 8 games here. Do I think this is the game? It could be, but right now, man, I think this is Lindsay's game. I think he's going to run all over him here.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. And Denver is the better team still. Cleveland's kind of getting there, but I think Denver still sniffing that playoff spot. You know, I've been reading some nonsense that Cleveland kind of is too, but let's be realistic. They're not going to win their final 3 games.
No fucking way.
So yeah, I'll take Denver at Mile High to win this one, thanks to the great Philip Lindsay.
Speaking of great, Chicago Bears are hosting the Green Bay Packers.
How about Green Bay, one of just 2 teams that haven't won on the road this year? San Francisco and Green Bay both winless on the road, and I don't see any reason why we would think this is the week Green Bay wins. Now, the weather doesn't look nearly as bad as last week. It's going to be in the 40s for this game, but it doesn't make the defense any worse. So that defense is too damn good. And we forgot to mention this, but Bryce Callahan, the nickelback for the Bears, is out for the season.
Bryce Callahan has a foot.
It's unfortunate.
Hold on a second. Let me just jump in right there. We were on the way home, and that was a press conference. Matt Nagy's like, Bryce Callahan has a left foot, and they quit talking. I'm like, oh, we didn't know that.
It's really unfortunate because he's one of the best nickel cornerbacks.
Oh man, he is
in the
having a
league this year.
fucking crazy year this year.
And now you're just next man up, so that might be a little weakness that especially
Sherrick, I don't think is going to do the job that Bryce did. But
No,
you got
he could be
good
serviceable.
surroundings that as long as you're competent, you could fill that spot.
So yeah, I do think that's a big problem there. For not a huge problem. They still have that great pass rush and great defense all around and Vic Fangio, but I do think the Bears will win this game. They have too much on defense, and the Packers' offense just isn't what it was last few years. And even that opening game of the season, in the second half, we saw the Packers do things that they have not done again this year, basically. So I think the Bears will frustrate Rodgers, make it a tough day for him, and ultimately win this one and clinch the NFC North.
Hut, 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 hut.
You let me talk about the Bears all day long, as long as I'm picking them.
You're right. Yeah, I got to go with the Bears, man. They're just looking too good, and I think they want to shut Rodgers up here, and this is a big game for them to win at home. Got to roll with them, man. Cardinals are not going to beat the Falcons. I think Matt Ryan's going to definitely pull this one out here. Unfortunately, it could be close just because it's as bad as the Falcons have been playing, but you got to go with the Falcons here.
Yeah, I think it'll be a fun game. But again, it's 2 crappy teams. Like last week, Jets-Bills was a fun game, but who cares? And I think that's what this is, but Atlanta will eke it out at home.
Definitely. Lions going into Buffalo.
Again, who cares, right? But I'll just take Buffalo. I think Josh Allen is in for a big game, as I said earlier, so I'll take the Bills to win their 5th game of the year.
I'm going to go with the Lions. Matt Patricia's saying, hey, Aaron Rodgers is in last place. I'm not in last, right?
That's what you want?
That's what you want.
Just want to beat the
Just
Packers?
for Detroit. Raiders going into Cincinnati.
Raiders with the big upset last week, probably the biggest upset of the week. They cannot go to Cincinnati. They don't travel and beat the Bengals, even though the Bengals are awful as well. Excuse me, the Mixon bus, not the Mixon bus, the Mixon train. I don't know, who cares? Mixon will have a huge game, as we both predicted, and Cincinnati will roll to an easy victory.
Okay. I'm going to go with a little bit of ketchup here. I'm going to take the Raiders bouncing back and trying to win 2 in a row.
Sounds more like mustard.
Cowboys going into Indy.
This was a tough one for me. I really like both these teams. They're both going in the right direction right now, apart from Indy's loss 2 weeks ago to Jacksonville. But as you said in the Who You Got segment, Andy Luck has got it going on right now. The one facet of the Cowboys defense that isn't strong is that secondary. they're susceptible there. So I think Luck will find a way to get Ebron going, get Ty going, and they'll win this one in a very exciting, tough game. But ultimately, the great one, Vinatieri, wins it late.
I'd like to agree with you, but I think the Cowboys are just moving too quick. I think that they got a lot to prove, and their defense is pretty solid here. This is going to be a great matchup here. Definitely one of my game of the weeks. And, I like the way Andy's moving. I just don't think the running game has picked up enough for him, and I think in that point Zeke's going to be the X factor. Give me the Cowboys. Dolphins heading into Minnesota.
Well, Dolphins, excited everyone in Miami, excited me. It was a great feeling, but ultimately they're 7-6, and they get to 10-6, they should make the playoffs. But I think the problem is Miami is really good at home, and they only have one win on the road, and that was against the Jets. So I don't think they can go up to Minnesota and beat a team that is reeling and looking to reestablish what a lot of people thought was a Super Bowl contender. So Miami's not going to be able to, strike lightning in a bottle 2 weeks in a row. Minnesota gets back on the winning ways.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins definitely can't do what they have been doing. I give them credit. Definitely upset some big teams and kind of made the playoff race a little bit more exciting. But bottom line is the Vikings, this is a do or die here. At home, they don't lose this game. Titans going into East Rutherford.
Well, all of a sudden the Giants, got a little something going. They beat the Bears, they killed the Redskins, and they're looking like a respectable team. And Titans are really up and down. I don't think you're going to get, obviously, anywhere near the same performance out of Derrick Henry. So, therefore, that offense becomes pretty easy to shut down because Mariota is not trustworthy. So, I'll actually take the Giants to continue their winning streak here, stretch it to 3, and further themselves, down the draft pick and really screw their replacement for Eli.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Titans here. I respect the Giants pick. I do like ODB, Saquon, assuming ODB comes back and plays here. But I think the big thing here is, the motivation that's going through the Titans here. I mean, they really don't got a bad record for where they're at. They could win out and possibly get a wild card spot. So they got a lot to play for. And, the way Henry's playing, that's just got to move your team in the right direction. And you got to follow that lead. Mariota's got to step up, and I think he has a good enough game to beat a nice defense here.
Yeah, and
featuring Ogletree,
They have the final game of the year is against Indy, so they're a team they're obviously fighting for that final wild card spot. So that could be, exactly what you're saying there. They could be fighting for a division or fighting for a wild card spot.
Alrighty, Redskins at the Jags.
Washington's an absolute mess. Jacksonville's not much better, but I don't see how Washington can win another game right now. Joshua Johnson goes in there and puts up a really good week for a quarterback, even though he only played one half. But Jacksonville is the best play at defense this week, and they'll put a similar performance to when they played the Colts 2 weeks ago. Jacksonville wins.
Yeah, I like Jacksonville here. I think that, like you said, the Redskins just are in an awful situation right now, and Jags have better show a little bit of respect here for that defense that was ranked in the top 5 last year. Buccaneers at the Ravens. I'm going to go with the Ravens here.
Yeah.
I really like the way they're rolling, and as much as Tampa Bay seems like they can kind of start off hot, they definitely dwindle off, and they can't just, seal the deal. Could have had New Orleans last week, and I think the Ravens' defense is just too strong to let Jameis Winston try to throw all over them.
Yeah, I'm going to say, agree with you. Ravens are going to win this game. They might run for 300 yards. But the most exciting thing to come out of this game is the return of Fitzmagic. After the Ravens pummel Winston for 2 quarters, they're going to go to Fitzmagic in the second half, and he won't have the magic against that good team.
Hey, it could happen. Seahawks at the Niners.
I don't think, like Oakland, I don't think San Francisco can win 2 games in a row. They're not good enough against good teams. So Seattle will win this game. They're firing on all cylinders right now. They got everything going on defensively and offensively, and they're just too good. And they got that 5 seed's going to be wrapped up after this week. Seattle.
Yeah, I got to go with you. Seattle's definitely. I like Kittle. I like his play here, and Mullins doing some things here. Got to give some respect to the kid, but
Nick
bottom
Mullins.
line is Rusty Wilson, X Factor. Patriots at the Steelers.
This is, the annual game, the big game, deciding playoff seeding, and right now Pittsburgh can't lose any more games. And I think ultimately they will win this game, although they're not great at home this year. They're only 3-3. But New England's not great on the road, so I will take the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this one because I think they're just going to need it a little bit more.
No, I hear you. I got to go with the Patriots here also. I really don't like what the Steelers got going. I think Edelman, Brady's going to bounce back. That was a shitty defeat. And, anytime Brady loses a game like that, he's come back and been 10 times as strong and sometimes won the Super Bowl, which I'm afraid of. You know what I mean? You get that big chip on your shoulder. But at this point, Pittsburgh, man, you just don't got it going. And I don't trust Connor coming back. Eagles at the Rams.
Well, I think I mentioned it earlier. Eagles are in the unfortunate situation of now playing the Rams, who just basically had a bye week last week and didn't want to show up and play. So now they're going to come home pissed and want to take it to the Eagles, and I think they're going to win by maybe 28-30, 4-touchdown game.
Ooh.
The Rams win easily.
Yeah, I like that game too. Eagles are just, they fell apart quick, and with Wentz possibility being out, look for the Rams to pounce back and Gurley to run all over them. Saints on Monday night at the Panthers.
Well, if the Rams do win, New Orleans needs to win to keep the number 1 spot. Carolina needs to win to keep their playoff hopes alive here, and I think ultimately they will win this game. Carolina at home, the Saints just aren't the same the last few weeks here, and going outdoors isn't going to solve anything for them. So I think Saints away from home, they struggled against Tampa last week, and now they'll struggle again this week against Carolina. But ultimately it will be a high-scoring game, but Carolina's going to have more in the tank.
Carolina, I'm going to roll with the Saints here. I think Drew's got to bounce back. This is a big game for him here, and that team needs a break. Hands down here, they need to recuperate, and in order for them to get into the NFC Championship game here, this is going to be one of them big games that they need. I like Carolina. I like what Cam Newton's doing. A little bit worried about his shoulders. Don't think he's definitely got to step back a little bit here. Got to get a little bit more of the offense involved. But Drew Brees, man, guy's got a lot to prove here. He wants to win one and get out of here. So give me the Saints.
All right, so this is Week 15. This is semifinals in most leagues. If you're listening to us and you win this week, give us a little shout out.
Let's see where you're at. What are you working with for that
voicemail? Let us
finals?
know what you got for the finals, or hit us on Twitter or email. Let us know because obviously our Who You Got segment is going to be very tough next week with so many teams out of the playoffs. So
I might not have anybody.
Yeah, who knows? We might just just skip the segment and just talk Bears and Dolphins. And
might have to. Just Bears.
You don't want to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that, except for John.
Possibly. Appreciate it, folks. Thanks for chiming in. Peace.
Good luck.